For West Wales, southwest England, and the wind strengthening along the south coast of England through the day as this band of rain moves through. Something we're not seeing for a while, so a spell of quite heavy rain, some snow over the hills of northern England and parts of Scotland also. Turning brighter for Wales and southern England come the afternoon, but a few showers moving in. Also turning milder, but it'll feel pretty cold again across northern areas, 5 or 6 degrees. But wetter and windier weather is on the way for Friday. This swirl, that's Storm Eowyn arriving Thursday night and through Friday. The strongest winds just tucked in here, Northern Ireland, southern central Scotland, northern England and North Wales. That's where we've got an amber warning in force as that storm moves through. Damaging gusts of wind, 60, 70, perhaps 80 miles an hour, maybe more in some locations in that amber warning area. But yellow warnings are also in place for wind, rain and some snow. Check out all the warnings for yourself on the Met Office website.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Or watching on demand. Good luck.
It's Patrick Christys tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christys tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
It's 9 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight
are only two genders, male and female.
Trump goes to war on diversity and inclusion, but meanwhile over here...
Is it transphobic to say only women have a cervix?
Look, is it transphobic? Look...
Yeah, we've got that, and of course we've also got a bit of this, haven't we?
No, it's just... No, I just...
A woman can't have a penis.
Yes, MPs are now debating whether we should have more female footballers on birthday cards. Britain
is the world capital of woke diversity jobs. This madness has to stop. Also tonight... An Afghan asylum seeker slaughters children with a knife in Germany. Well, you know, whose fault could that be? Well...
We are taking urgent action to ban zombie-style knives and regulating the online sale of knives.
Starmer's response to the Southport massacre is to blame the knives, seemingly, and not just the attacker, and...
It was on Amazon that the Southport killer bought his knife. Amazon, of course, is owned by Jeff Bezos.
Deranged James O'Brien also looks to shift the blame towards people like Jeff Bezos. I mean, how deluded can you be? Also tonight... Asda, Morrison's, Boots, Tesco's and Lidl all joined forces to call for Labour to reverse their inheritance tax rules on farmers.
You ever thought about joining Reform? Just
Listen,
yes or no?
I have looked at the Reform Party because I have been listening to what they're saying.
Suella Braverman has called for the Tories and Reform to join forces. Could it have anything to do with the latest opinion poll showing Labour are now in third place? Zia Youssef joins us on that. We're keen to get his views. And, of course, we will cover this.
2 girls became the sex slaves of a grooming gang in Rochdale. Manchester Crown Court heard this morning.
This is yet another alleged grooming gang. On my panel tonight is the director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, landlord and activist Adam Brooks, and writer and broadcaster Nina Mishkov. Oh, and how much money do you think Prince Harry has just come into?
Sun, the flagship title for Rupert Murdoch's UK media empire, has indeed engaged in illegal practices.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Knives don't kill people, deranged lunatics do. Next.
Good evening. It's just gone 9 o'clock. These are your headlines from the GB newsroom. Russia has responded to Donald Trump's ultimatum to end the war in Ukraine. The US president said Russia will face high levels of taxes, tariffs and sanctions if President Vladimir Putin does not end the war. Posting on his Truth Social, Trump expressed his love for the Russian people and his good relationship with Putin, and then issued a direct warning to stop this ridiculous war. Russia's UN envoy has said the Kremlin would need to see what Trump thinks is a deal comprises of before proceeding. He said it's not merely the question of ending the war, it's first and foremost the question of addressing the root causes of the Ukrainian crisis. Meanwhile, the Defence Secretary has issued a stark warning to Vladimir Putin after a Russian spy ship's been located operating off the UK coast. Speaking in the Commons, John Healey warned the Russian president, "We see you and we know what you're doing." The ship's believed to be used for gathering intelligence and mapping the UK's critical underwater infrastructure. It entered UK waters on Monday, prompting the Royal Navy to deploy HMS Somerset and HMS Tyne to track it. An Afghan migrant who stabbed a 2-year-old boy and a 41-year-old man to death in a German park was supposed to have left the country. The 28-year-old Afghan national deliberately attacked a kindergarten group in the park with a kitchen knife, leaving 2 dead and 2 injured. The Bavarian Interior Minister said the suspect was undergoing psychiatric treatment and had his asylum process closed and was supposed to have left the country. He added that the suspect did not appear to be motivated by radical Islam. Meanwhile, people have begun to gather in protest with a placard reading, "We won't let diversity kill us." The stabbing adds to a string of violent attacks in Germany that have raised concerns over security and stirred up tensions over migration. Back in the UK, a former soldier has admitted murdering his ex-girlfriend, her sister and their mother in a brutal attack with a crossbow and a knife. 26-year-old Carl Clifford tied Louise Hunt with duct tape before shooting her and her sister Hannah at their family home in Hertfordshire last July. Their mother, Carol, wife of BBC commentator John Hunt, was stabbed to death, with Hannah calling police moments before she died. The killings have prompted an ongoing Home Office review into crossbow laws as they remain unregulated in the UK. And the owner of The Sun newspaper has issued a full and unequivocal apology to Prince Harry for serious privacy violations and has agreed to pay him substantial damages, settling a long-running legal battle just before it was set to go to court. The apology also extends to the late Princess Diana, acknowledging intrusion into her private life. Former Labour Deputy Leader Tom Watson also received an apology for unwarranted intrusion during his time in government. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to Patrick.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good evening, everybody. We are witnessing a giant deflection tactic when it comes to the Southport massacre. Let's just get one thing clear. Knives don't kill people, deranged lunatics do. Now, Keir Starmer's decided that the main problem here is that the monster, Axel Rudikobana, could buy a knife. And now we're going to get news and new laws on that.
She and I have met far too many families devastated by this senseless violence. We are taking urgent action to ban zombie-style knives and regulating the online sale of knives. It is unacceptable that these murder weapons can be bought with 2 clicks. Technology is there to stop it, and we're going to take action.
You've got James O'Brien piping up, blaming Jeff Bezos.
It was on Amazon that the Southport killer bought his knife. Amazon, of course, is owned by Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos was sitting in the row behind Donald Trump at the latter's inauguration. So I am not given to hyperbole, but the aligning of these planets is at the very least notable.
He's not given to hyperbole, everyone. Not given to hyperbole. Look, Axel Rudikobana was referred to Prevent 3 times. He was expelled from school. He apparently attacked pupils with a hockey stick at school. He was known to police. His parents must have had an idea that their son was a monster. His father reportedly stopped him getting in a taxi to his old school a week before he took another taxi on his way to commit the dance studio massacre. Labour wants tougher laws for under-18s buying knives online. Well, firstly, that would have prevented Rudikobana from buying a knife for like a few weeks, I think. Secondly, he could have killed people with the biological weapon that he was making. Thirdly, Labour wanted votes for 16-year-olds at the last election.
We want to see 16 and 17-year-olds voting. They can go out and work. They can serve in our armed forces. And, of course, if they are out and working, they pay tax. And therefore they should have a say over how the money they're paying in is being used. So yes, I want to see that vote for 16 and 17-year-olds.
So he'd have been old enough to vote, but not old enough to buy a knife. Fourthly, as Nigel Farage points out, well, you can't entirely ban knives, can you? Because there is a murder weapon in every single kitchen drawer, isn't there? We've been here before. After the murder of Sir David Amess by a jihadi lunatic, somehow it all became about passing a new law to clamp down on social media use. What about clamping down on jihadis instead? What you're going to see now in the Southport case is a concerted attempt to do everything apart from tackle the real issue. GB News presenter Matt Goodwin said Southport is not about buying knives on Amazon or what big tech lets us watch online. It's about hapless Western leaders importing masses of people from high-conflict societies who are more prone to violence, don't share our values and don't care about our people. And look at what's happened again in Germany today. An Afghan asylum seeker stabs a toddler and a man to death in a park. Our establishment politicians will do everything to distract you from the fact that it's their ideologies and their decisions that have ultimately put us all and our children at risk. Let's get thoughts from my panel this evening. We've got the Director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, businessman and activist Adam Brooks, and writer and broadcaster Nina Mishkov. Mark, look, this business about, it becoming an issue with Amazon and big tech, do you think that misses the key point here?
Oh, I mean, misses it by a country mile, Patrick. We are not going to be able to ban in Britain the distribution of sharp metal. I mean, forget it. It doesn't really matter whether it's just Bezos and Amazon circulating it. I mean, you can buy materials at your local, I don't know, B&Q or whatever it might be now, to kill people with. You can't stop people getting their hands on this sort of weaponry, which, as you rightly pointed out, and Nigel Farage has pointed out, usually this material is bought for entirely peaceful purposes, cutting things up in the kitchen. So forget all of that. It's absolutely crazy, and James O'Brien's clearly completely lost it. He thinks there was some sort of plot between Trump and Bezos to weaponise this guy.
He was having to do there. There's a famous meme, actually, which I wish I'd thought of before this, of some guy with the, the string wires on a cork board, all connecting the dots.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
How ultimately aliens built the pyramids.
If somebody is, I mean, I thought you were rather generous to the Southport killer that it would have taken him a few weeks to get his hand on a weapon. It would have taken, minutes. I would have thought. It's extremely easy to get your hands on this, and we can't regulate that away. It's impossible to do so. I'm unsurprised the Prevent programme has completely failed. I don't know what their expertise is, but again, what are you looking at? This bloke is sort of watching a few dodgy videos. When do you call him in? It's very difficult to measure. One point that you did raise in your intro, Patrick, which I completely agree with, is I think we need to ask more questions of the parents. Yeah. So this guy's got the Al-Qaeda military training manual on his bookshelf. He's got rice in what's been described as his house, but I assume that was his parents' house. Yeah. The knife was presumably delivered by Amazon to the door. This person is under the age of 18. Perhaps the parents have done everything they could, but I would like to ask them some very searching questions about what the bloody hell their son was up to and what steps did they take to prevent it.
I think you pose a series of very, very valid questions there. Adam, do you think that we're seeing a bit of a deflection tactic? I mean, he was, by all accounts, found with a knife 10 times.
I'm an anti-knife campaigner. I have been for years. I've been stabbed. In my nightclub owning days, I've dealt with some bad people. I've had machetes pulled on me, the lot. Look, the deterrent isn't there, Patrick. These people will find a weapon wherever they can get it. If they can get a big kitchen knife, they will get... This whole Amazon thing is a deflection, even though I do think it should be made harder for people to buy knives over the internet. Look, we have got a weak police. We've got a judiciary that you only need to search on Google. What did I put here? Suspended sentence for machete. Pages and pages of lunatics that have swung machetes at people, threatened them, and got suspended sentences. Yet we want to lock up people that say hurty words on social media. This is the problem. We need mandatory 5-year sentences for anyone caught with a knife. You watch the rates drop because your local 17-year-old will not want to go to prison for 5 years. And there should be no appeal on that. If you're caught, you go to prison. Let's get rid of the 10,000 foreign prisoners that we've got here, deport them and make room for actual lunatics that we need to get off of the street.
But this guy would still have got a knife. He didn't care about going to prison.
100%.
What do you make of this, especially what the likes of James O'Brien are saying now, which is that the blame... As far as I can gather, anyway, the blame for Southport really lies on the fact that Jeff Bezos, a multimillionaire who was next to Trump at Trump's inauguration, owns Amazon. He got the knife off Amazon, therefore it's their fault.
I don't think that at all, and I don't think anybody would ever think that. You can't blame Jeff Bezos and Amazon, but you can blame the fact that it is possible, very easy, for somebody under the age of 18 to get these knives. Why we produce and sell these knives? Why would anybody... we're not living in the backwoods of Kentucky where we're going to be, threatened by a mountain bear. So why do these knives actually exist?
They were kitchen knives.
Some of them were not...
No. The machetes and things, but I believe that this was a kitchen knife.
Well, OK, so fair enough. But they should have been flagged up that this is the same customer who's buying ingredients for rice. And this should not be possible. If a 17-year-old went into a shop, I don't know where you buy knives, B&Q, I don't know.
Yeah.
he would not be allowed to buy it. And it's wrong to say...
I certainly would get away with that, I would think.
Do you think? I absolutely... But it's completely wrong.
It's a distraction, Nina, for Keir Starmer, who's copping at the moment, to start going on about, oh, it's too easy to buy knives, too easy to buy knives. No. And actually, everyone's going, well, you maybe withheld information from us which maybe helped fuel some of the disorder that we saw over the summer, and actually prevent, and, you know, the police in some cases did not do enough.
What? And the first thing that Keir Starmer said was detailed and list every single organisation from Prevent onwards who had not done their job properly. And it was only then that he said, well, let's, in a practical way, let's make it harder.
Himself in the range of people who've not done their job properly.
Oh, come on.
He included himself.
Well, he had nothing to do. Look, he was voted in in the beginning of July. This happened at the end of July. It's nothing to do with him.
Well, sorry, I'm not blaming him for the attack. I'm not going the full James O'Brien here. But he had information that he clearly knew, that he chose not to disclose, a break with precedent. Previous terrorist attacks, we've known within hours that it was a terrorist attack. The death of Joe Cox, the death of David Amis. He decided to not disclose that. He allowed his own cabinet to go on television saying that to suggest it was a terrorist attack was...
This did not qualify. This did not qualify as a terrorist attack in the rules of law, and he's talking about changing that as well.
The viewers need to realise that if we had a strong judiciary, a strong police force, being caught 10 times with a knife, this kid should have been in prison, and those 3 girls would still be alive today. It is... The blood of those children is on the authorities. That boy should never have been a free man. And any parent, if I believe my son, he's 15, was capable of anything like this, and the dad obviously did, I would be marching him down the police station myself.
Well, Colin, on that, the parents, let's just now look, I do not want to sit here and blame the parents entirely, or so. He may well deny, the dad may well deny that he ever thought his son was capable of anything like this, and whatever. And as I understand it, they have been moved to a different location for their own protection, and I don't want to see any harm come to the parents of this monster. OK. However, Nick... However, jihadi terror manual in his bedroom. OK, maybe some lads do have things in their bedrooms that their parents don't know about. All right. Ricing. Bit strong, isn't it? Quite literally. You know, at what point do the parent... And then he got this story that his dad took him out of a taxi or stopped him getting in a taxi. His dad will have known his son's history in terms of Prevent. You know, sorry, but at what point do the parents look at themselves here?
I'm not here to defend the parents or to defend Keir Starmer or to defend... But what I will say is that many parents have absolutely no idea what goes on in their children's bedrooms. They do not know what's going on, what they're looking at online. And 30 or 40... Of course they should do, but most, I would say 80% of parents don't. 40 years ago, when there was no internet, where this kid would not have had access to gory material, to violence, that you wouldn't have found. To get porn, for instance, you'd had to go to a cinema. There is no such thing as porn available to young people.
Means there's more parental responsibility.
No, well, of course.
Can I just quickly, just because we are pressed for time here, but there is a point I would like to put to you, Mark, if that's all right. In relation to what Matt Goodwin said there, which is that actually there's maybe a bigger picture here, that, OK, Axel Rudy Cabana was born in Wales, I believe, but is there a bigger picture here that we have had as a country, in light of maybe what we've seen in Germany as well today, but to import people from countries where violence is more commonplace and that has a psychological effect on those people, and then we welcome them or their families into Britain, and we do end up seeing stuff like this. Is there any truth to that for you?
There probably is, but the more important thing for me is I think we need to look at our entire culture being poisoned. So this guy hadn't just got off a boat from Afghanistan or whatever and was some jihadist. Yeah. He has, by background, looked like a normal British background. I mean, he appeared in the Children in Need Doctor Who episode 7 or 8 years ago. You would have thought, just at first blush, it was normal. So somewhere in our culture, we have something utterly poisonous, afflicting mainly young men, and we need to extract.
And that I also think has come down to social media, because he can be completely brutalised by watching gore, and I think partially that's what's happening. Because he didn't just watch jihadi stuff. He He looked at Nazi stuff, anything that was violent and gory. And as I say, 40 years ago, he would not have had access to any of that. So you have to blame this.
We've seen the crime rates in Germany and other European countries. Some migrants are disproportionately more likely to commit violent crimes. We do not know these people that are coming across on the boats or coming into our country. It's a fear of mine that how many of these type people have we let in?
Well, this is a fear of everybody. It's not just you. And if it is,
we don't know, and the government doesn't know.
Of everybody. Right. Thank you very much. Good start. An Amazon spokesman said this: "We take our responsibility around the sale of all age-restricted items, including bladed products, extremely seriously, and have launched an urgent investigation in relation to this tragic case. We use trusted ID verification services to check names, date of birth, and addresses whenever an order is placed for those bladed items." So that's that. I've got a variety of different stories coming your way, which I'll tell you more about shortly. Zia Youssef, chairman of Reform, is going to be on. Suella Braverman's kicked off, and she says it's time for the Tories and Reform to join forces. So I'm going to grill him on that. But before we get to that, it's, of course, time for the biggest Great British giveaway this year. 50 grand. It could all be yours. Here's how. Will Reform and the Tories unite? I'm going to be joined by Reform UK chairman Zia Youssef. But up next, is Labour's inheritance tax on farmers now completely untenable? You've got Tesco's, Aldi, Lidl. They've all joined forces today. I'm going to be joined by the Director of External Affairs at the Countryside Alliance, Mo Metcalfe-Fisher, and the former editor of Labour List, Peter Edwards. How long before Labour U-turns on the farmers? Stay tuned.
Headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight. Every night from 11 p.m.
We've got the Daily Mail now with the latest in the court case over whether a man is a woman or a man. It's a tough question. And J.K. Rowling has given her opinion. I think I can guess what it is, Cressida.
Explosive twist in Australia's What is a Woman trans battle as Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling gets involved. So this is the court case Giggle versus Tickle. Tickle was a...
He's Mr. Men.
That's right. It's a Mr. Men trans battle.
Kind of is a Mr. Man.
It was a women's group, wasn't it? Tickle, Giggles... Oh, I get it wrong. Giggles for girls. And Roxy Tickle, who is a trans woman, wanted to join this group and wasn't allowed, was banned for being a biological male, and then sued and amazingly got $10,000 for this, which is already extraordinary to me.
Yeah.
But it's now doubling down and is going to file a cross-appeal seeking to upgrade the judgment.
Yeah.
So Roxy has come back for another bite of the cherry.
And I've had a look at this Roxanne Tickle, the trans woman.
Is she
pretty? No, not one of the pretty ones. Not a Blair White. Just looks like, to be honest, it looks like
you could be sued for $10,000.
Looks like one of us.
Yeah.
To be honest, no. Like I mean, I'll happily.
For yourself.
No, I think it's an absolute. It's a farce, and it's making a mockery of not just. It's not just making a mockery of women's right to have their own spaces. It's making a mockery of genuine trans people who actually put some effort in and look like a woman.
What do you mean a genuine trans
And also,
people?
if
We don't believe in that.
No, if your name was Roxanne, if you were going to transition, you wouldn't pick the name Roxanne Tickle.
What?
You choose Tess.
You Tess. That's a kind of name. No, the truth is that's one of the problems, is you get a choice in the name you're going to choose. And of course, you're going to choose like a hot Roxanne. That's a hot Roxanne. That's a great name. They're not going to choose.
You don't think
Louis.
Tess would work better with Tickle?
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. Have the supermarkets just sunk Labour? It's time now for our head-to-head. So, the Co-op have this afternoon joined Asda, Morrison's, Boots, Lidl and Aldi in calling on the government to reconsider its changes to inheritance tax for farmers. Tesco, Britain's biggest supermarket, has also promised to fight for the farmers, as their chief commercial officer warned that this is not just a debate about individual policies. The UK's future food security is at stake. So they've savaged it, haven't they? Let's not forget, British farmers produce around 60% of our food, including most of the cereals, meat, dairy and eggs that we eat. Ministers have insisted that the tax changes will only affect a small group of farmers, but as the giants of the UK food industry have echoed widespread public anger and are united with the National Farmers Union to publicly reject these claims, we have to ask, is Labour's inheritance tax now completely untenable? I'm joined now by the External Affairs Director at the Countryside Alliance, Mo Metcalfe-Fisher, and political commentator Alex Cairns. Thank you very much, both of you. Great to have you on. Mo, I'll start with you. Have the supermarkets just sunk Labour's farmers' inheritance tax plans?
It should do. The multiple polls from the public, the huge response and outcry from the countryside, the mountain of opposition from the opposition in Parliament should have been enough to sink it. But still, Rachel Reeves and the Treasury, they don't want to listen. They don't want to hear from the experts. But hopefully now, with this mountain, an army of supermarkets coming and siding with farmers in this row, we can hopefully move forward and find a way out of this mess. Look, we don't want this row. Farmers don't want this row. They want to be out there producing food for us and maintaining our environment. They don't want to be out in the streets protesting and writing letters to MPs. This is a problem that Rachel Reeves and the Treasury have started, and it's one they've got to finish and put right.
So, look, Alex, farmers are wrong, Tesco's, Aldi, Lidl, they're all wrong, the British public are wrong, but Rachel from accounts is right. Is that what you're going to say?
No, I mean, let's put this into the context, right? The supermarkets are, of course, going to be backing farmers because we know that obviously they are kind of hand in hand in business, right? You know, lots of farms, you know, Waitrose have their own farm, for example. The rest of the supermarkets are either investors or have very close business relationships. So it'd be very bizarre if the supermarkets wouldn't come on board. And you're talking about the public. There's actually no evidence to suggest that every single poll I've seen suggests that people are massively supporting the farmers. Let's remember, 25% of farms are going to be affected by this. Even worst case scenarios I've seen is about a third, right? This is really coming down to money. And actually, let's think about who owns most of the farms and estates in this country. 30% are aristocrats. 30% are corporate or private investors. So we're talking about, poor, the small farmer. Majority of them are being handed down from hereditary peers. Lots of them are owned by private investors, and lots of them are owned by people that don't want to pay inheritance tax. Why should people that work hard for their first, second property that have to pay inheritance tax have to pay it, and farmers are exempt? It's a double standards, and Labour have finally put an end to it.
I'll just a couple of points to correct there. Polls, 58% of the British public back a farmers' protest, only 13% don't, and more than half of the public, 55% to be precise, would support farmers if they decided to actually go on strike. But Mo, do you want to come back to what Alex was saying there about this idea that actually, of course, the big supermarkets, because that's today's development, of course the big supermarkets would go into bat for the farmers because, well, they're in business with them. This is not an accurate representation of what's right.
Yeah, no, supermarkets understand the food chain and they probably understand it, I dare say, a little bit better than your person that you've had on here this evening. I mean, look, Alex, it's not easy spinning for the government. You're probably one of the only people that are out there trying to defend this ghastly policy. You know, as I've said, and as Patrick pointed out, it's actually Labour voters as well who are against this policy. So, you know, rather than dig your heels in, I think it's just best that we get the rural experts like the National Farmers Union, the CLA, Countryside Alliance, around the table to find a way out of this mess. This is a really ugly look for the Labour Party. It looks like it's completely out of touch. It looks like they're picking on farmers. You could almost hear in Alex's voice this kind of hatred towards farmers, and it's so disappointing to hear that. I talk to farmers on a daily basis. I hear the pain in their voices, and with all due respect, Alex, you're wrong on this one. Labour, the Treasury, they need to rethink this policy now.
Well, Alex, I'll let you come back to that. I will say that apparently the OBR has come out and said that basically the inheritance tax on farmers will raise just £500 million and is unlikely to reach a steady rate for at least 20 years. So it doesn't actually make financial sense, does it?
Well, OK, so let's think about what's happening here, right? This is not going to be a corporation tax or a VAT specifically for farms or for the farming sector. This is about M&A activity, right? This is about when people come to sell, what is a fair process where for a long time, people have used this loophole to basically buy private land, farming land, where lots of it will never actually be used for farming, right? We know that. And also, when it comes to the situation, the policy we're talking about, it's actually going to be a 10-year interest-free kind of payment plan. So it's not like they're going to go out of business, right? And this change comes in April 2026. So I politely say back to your other guest that he thinks that I'm wrong. Actually, I would say that he's wrong. And of course, the NFU, shock horror, they're going to support the farmers because that's their job. I mean, the idea that they're going to come out and suddenly say the farmers are not correct. I mean, I just don't understand why constantly people are acting like all the farmers are going to go out of business. It's just nonsense.
OK, Mo?
Again, you can just hear the anger in the voice. I don't understand what Alex has got against farmers. Please, come and talk to us. I can introduce you to some farmers that are going to get seriously hurt by this policy. I was speaking to farmers. I was speaking... No, Alex.
Let's drill down on that, guys, right? OK, so Mo, is Alex right when he's saying that, and I think the quote was, that most of these people are hereditary peers?
Yeah, well, Alex, with all due respect, let's go out and meet some family farmers. Let's go out and meet them. I can tell you about the pain that they're going through. Let them tell you about it too. You know, older farmers over the age of 80 who were told to stay alive are now being told that if they want to pass it down, if they live beyond April 2026, that their kids are going to have to break up that farm to pay this horrendous tax. This is horrendous. Look, please, let's not get angry. Let's not deliberately try and make this political. Let's get people round the table and find a way forward. This is about our food security, Alex. I hope you've had dinner tonight. It was probably made by British farmers or probably brought to you by British farmers. Let's keep it going, OK? Because this risks our national food security.
So, Alex, are Tesco's lying when they say that this is going to affect food security in Britain? Are they lying?
No, they're not lying, but naturally... They've got an invested interest in it.
But that's what it is, though, isn't it, mate? Sorry, but it either is going to affect our food security or it isn't. Tesco's are saying it is. You're saying they're telling the truth. So why do it then? It's madness, isn't it?
No, it's not madness. It will affect our food security if suddenly 30-40% of farms all decide to be sold or handed down to that next generation. It's not going to suddenly happen. That's like saying, OK, would 30% of homes all be sold in the same year? So the inheritance tax would hit all of those private investors that have those private tenants. But no, it's not going to happen, right? I just don't understand where this whole Cry Me a River situation comes from, where all of the farms, you know, I'll come and meet your farmers. You come and meet small business owners. You know, there's £500 I can go to the school building project project where 2,000 schools are about to be, you know, they're in derelict, kind of awful conditions. The whole country needs rebuilding. I'm not going to sit here and think that, poor folks, because the whole country
guys, all I'll say to draw a line of this is I can smell a Channel 5 6-part series of Mo and Alex on the farm, and I think this is going to be a fantastic thing. So look, guys, well done, thank you. We wanted a head-to-head. We definitely got one. So that is Mo Metcalfe-Fisher there, the External Affairs of the Countryside Alliance, and political commentator Alex Cairns. Coming up, 8 men accused of sex grooming gang offences in Rochdale have denied all charges, including 43 counts of rape. I'm going to be joined by GB News reporter Charlie Peters for the latest on that. Up next, will Reform and the Tories unite? Yep, we've got Reform UK chairman Zia Youssef to respond to Suella Braverman saying they should. Stay tuned.
Evening, weather time now from the Met Office here on GB News. This time tomorrow, Storm Eowyn will be fast approaching, bringing potentially damaging gusts of wind during Thursday night and into Friday. Before that, tomorrow there'll be a spell of wet and windy weather, but before that, tonight, relatively calm. Some mist and fog patches, especially over eastern England, and a touch of frost for northeast England, much of eastern Scotland, and many places colder than last night and not far off freezing to start Thursday. In the west, temperatures probably rising a little through the night because this band of rain will be moving in. It's going to make for a soggy start for Northern Ireland tomorrow. Generally, a calm start for Scotland, maybe a few mist and fog patches. Certainly a frosty start for many, particularly in the east. But there's that wet weather across Northern Ireland. Pretty miserable morning rush hour here, and that rain will soon be spreading to West Wales and southwest England. The winds also starting to pick up here as we go through the morning. Now, that could cause a few problems. We've got a Met Office yellow wind warning in place for West Wales, southwest England, and the wind strengthening along the south coast of England through the day as this band of rain moves through. Something we're not seeing for a while, so a spell of quite heavy rain, some snow over the hills of northern England and parts of Scotland also. Turning brighter for Wales and southern England come the afternoon, but a few showers moving in. Also turning milder, but it'll feel pretty cold again across northern areas, 5 or 6 degrees. But wetter and windier weather is on the way for Friday. This swirl, that's Storm Eowyn arriving Thursday night and through Friday. The strongest winds just tucked in here, Northern Ireland, southern central Scotland, northern England and North Wales. That's why we've got an amber warning in force as that storm moves through. Damaging gusts of wind, 60, 70, perhaps 80 miles an hour, maybe more in some locations in that amber warning area. But yellow warnings are also in place for wind, rain and some snow. Check out all the warnings for yourself on the Met Office website.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Emily Carver. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, everybody. Just very shortly, and watch this space, I've got some major breaking news for you. But before that, former Home Secretary Suella Braverman has said that the Conservatives and Reform UK should unite to defeat Labour during a trip to Washington, D.C. for Trump's inauguration. She suggested a coalition with Nigel Farage's party. She says that's the formula to beat Labour. She said, I like Nigel. There isn't space in British politics for two Conservative parties. Interestingly, though, her comments come just hours after a new poll released, a bombshell poll, showing the Tories and Reform are now neck and neck and the Labour Party are in third place. Farage has consistently slammed the Tories. And just take a listen to what Kemi Badenoch said when Christopher Hope put the idea to her.
Nigel Farage says he wants to destroy the Conservative Party. Why on earth would we merge with that?
Well, I want to get to the bottom of this, and who better to talk to than the chairman of Reform UK, Zia Yusuf. Zia, thank you very much for joining us here tonight. So, Suella Braverman wants it. You know, will you do it then? Unite the right?
Well, I agree with her that there isn't space for two, and the reality is Reform has already overtaken the Conservative Party. Look, how can you do a deal? How can you do a pact with a group, with a tribe who deal entirely in deception, in falsehoods and betrayal? They have betrayed the people of Britain to such an extraordinary degree that they will fully deserve the extinction event that's now facing them.
To be fair to them, really, I mean, the latest Morning Common poll there shows that you are neck and neck in the polls, but they would get a lot more seats. So is it fair for you to say that you've overtaken them? They are still the number one right-wing party, aren't they?
Well, the pollsters have a great deal of discretion, if you actually look at the underlying models, to flex things up and down. And none of the pollsters want to go first because pollsters are there just largely. They have no interest in being correct. They just want to not be demonstrably wrong. You'll see in the coming weeks Reform surging ahead of the Tory party, as we already have done in several polls. But look, let's look at the Tories' track record here. Over the 14 years that they were in government, they grew the size of the population of the United Kingdom by 6.5 million people. They built no net new prison places, which is why we have violent criminals running rampant around the United Kingdom, and people feel terrified to leave their homes, particularly women. They... You know, the 2010, the 2015, the 2017 and the 2019 manifesto, they promised to bring net migration to what? Down to the tens of thousands. What did they do? They left office with that number at 1 million. They created the religion of net zero. They enshrined it into law with an insane target without thinking about it, by Kemi Badenoch's own admission. And do you know how much British consumers, do you know how much the viewers of your programme have had to subsidise those renewable companies at their behest?
Go on.
£300 per household per year. And that's from their net pay while they've been struggling to make ends meet. They allowed wokery and DEI to run rampant. Look, I was out in the United States, in Washington, D.C., during the inauguration weekend, and you saw that amazing ceremony, the executive order signing ceremony. I mean, what a thing to see a politician, heaven forbid, promise things and actually deliver on them on day one. What was he doing? He was basically doing the very opposite of what the Tories did in government, whether it was on DEI.
So it's no deal. So what you're saying is no deal.
We will never do a deal with the Tory party because they will never again get a chance to betray the British people. I will say one other thing, which is that you're now seeing senior Tories on a daily basis now propose deals. And make no mistake, what this is a defeated army waving the white flag, begging for mercy, of which there will be none forthcoming.
But would you take them... Well, OK, fair enough. But, I mean, would you extend that to Suella, though? I mean, would you show her mercy in that sense? Would you welcome her in?
I have enormous respect for Suella as an individual. She paid a heavy price for saying things that were just objectively true. I mean, I remember I wasn't even in politics. I was running my tech company at this stage, and I read her op-ed in the Daily Telegraph where she talked about two-tier policing.
Yeah.
In fact, she actually used the phrase, the perception of two-tier policing. She even attenuated her language. She was talking about things that even then were so demonstrably and obviously true that all of your viewers know that it makes sense. And what happened? She was banished from the tribe. She was excommunicated. So, frankly, I'm actually quite disappointed that she would propose that we do a deal with the sort of people who would treat her that way.
Wow. Well, OK, pretty clear there when it comes to the idea of a deal between the Tories and Reform. I promised you a little bit of breaking news, and I'm going to give it to you right now, actually. So, apparently, 1 in 12 people living in London is an illegal migrant. 1 in 12 people living in London is an illegal migrant. So there are as many as 585,000 illegal migrants making up our capital city's population. That's a new estimate that's just emerged in the last few minutes in a study commissioned by Thames Water, of all people, obtained by The Telegraph under a Freedom of Information style laws for the environment. Look at that. I mean, goodness gracious me. Is it 1 in 12 people in the capital city is here illegally?
Well, as I was saying to you just before we came on air, when you told me that data point, you know, the tragic and sad thing about this is I'm not the least bit surprised. Anybody who has walked around London and lived in London, as I have, knows in our bones that these data points are true. We've been gaslit by the Office of National Statistics, who, by the way, let's not forget, that 1 million net migration number, and I'm just talking about legal migration here, was revised upward by 20%. 20% in the year before an election. The Tories allowed hundreds of thousands of, largely men, 90% men, to cross our English Channel illegally, come here. What did they do? They put them up in hotels. They gave them free phones. They basically give them every possible incentive to come here and break our laws as their first act.
What do you do about that, though? So come on, then. We fast forward, and you've been very vocal, as indeed is your job, to be about Nigel Farage, next Prime Minister. So Nigel Farage inherits this. He inherits 1 in 12 people in our capital city being here illegally. What does he do? Go door to door and with a net? How does he work? How does he do it?
Well, we've been very clear that if you come here illegally, if your first act on coming here is to break our laws, you will be deported. But first of all, you need to stop the tap. So if the bath is overflowing, you need to stop the water from coming in. So the first thing Nigel will do when he becomes the Prime Minister of this country, pick up the phone to the First Sea Lord and issue an order, His Majesty's Royal Navy, to ensure that not a single unauthorised vessel crossing the English Channel makes it to the shores of the United Kingdom. It will be a humanitarian mission. Our Navy, I speak to many people at the most senior levels inside His Majesty's Royal Navy who say all they need is a political clarity. They keep using that word. Give us a political clarity. We will ensure those boats stop coming. Nobody's harmed. They are taken back to France. We need to leave the European Convention on Human Rights, replace it with a British Bill of Rights so that the rights of British citizens take precedence over the rights of foreign citizens. You do those things, those boats will stop coming within the first week of Nigel Farage's Prime Ministership.
This idea of 1 in 12 people in our capital city being here illegally, for me, poses a series of other questions. How are they all affording to live? Where are they living, for a start, as well? What are we all paying for? Also, is there going to be any serious attempt to actually get rid of those people? I mean, you know, this is I would say, a national emergency, isn't it? If you just zoomed out a bit and said, hang on a minute, 1 in 12 people in your capital city are actually here illegally, who's paying for all these people? Where are they living? What business are they running? What business are they working in? Should this not be treated as a national emergency?
It's not just a national emergency for the economic reasons you just mentioned and how unfair it is. It's a national security emergency, which we keep saying. I mean, the people who have been coming across the Channel, for example, illegally, 90% of them are men. The number of military-aged males that have made that journey illegally now surpasses, tragically, the number of available soldiers available to the British Army, both Standing Army and the Territorial. And most of them come, where from? Afghanistan, from Syria, from Iran, countries with, let's just say, not the friendliest track record to this country. It's a national security emergency. It's a national economic emergency. It is incredibly and grossly unfair. And once again, who's responsible? You know, bringing the conversation back to a pact. How can you do a pact and a deal with the same people who are responsible for these abominations?
Yeah, OK, well, strong views, Ezzy. Thank you very much. And, you know, it's interesting because, like you say, you know, anyone literally with eyes, and I suspect some people without as well, could still see that the vast majority of those people coming across the Channel are young, as you would put it, fighting-age men. In amongst that, unquestionably, will be some people who are genuinely fleeing war. But look,
But Patrick, if you're fleeing a war, it's women and children first. Not.
I agree.
It's women. It's leave the women and children home if you're going to a war.
You don't leave your wife at the mercy of the Taliban, do you? Realistically, I mean that's a fact. But the Home Office have piped up on this, reacting to this breaking news for you tonight. 1 in 12 people in London are shock horror illegal immigrants. The government is strengthening global partnerships and rooting out the criminal gangs who profit from small boat crossings which threaten lives. We've also removed 16,400 illegal migrants in just 6 months, the highest figure in half a decade, making it clear that those who arrive illegally will be returned. But I'll just politely suggest this. The next time you go on a tube carriage or wherever, walk around Trafalgar Square, by rights, 1 in every dozen people that you see is an illegal migrant. Bonkers. Zia, thank you very much. Zia Yusuf, the chairman of Reform UK. Coming up, while President Trump has dismantled DEI in the US within days, here in Britain, we have become the woke diversity and inclusion capital of the world. I have some shocking figures to show you. But next, 8 men accused of sex grooming offences in Rochdale have denied all charges, including 43 counts of rape. GB News reporter Charlie Peters will give you the latest on another disturbing court case. Stay tuned.
hope it doesn't rain.
Don't worry about it.
It'll spoil our holiday.
Relax, we're totally covered.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
The sunshine will be returning to Cyprus, but still a few showers around for the next day or so. Much of mainland Greece fine and sunny. There are the showers across Cyprus. They'll be clearing, as should the showers over Turkey as well. But remaining pretty mixed, quite cloudy over the Balkans, with a few showers in here and for northern Italy. It's been quite wet recently in southern Spain. More wet weather to come here on Thursday, and more showers to come across the Canaries. But it should be turning sunnier in Tenerife for the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Lee Anderson's Real World, Fridays from 7 p.m.
Aaron McLean, the goal machine here, used to play for Peterborough United. You bagged loads of goals for them back in the day. But I've got a bone to pick with you, young man. You scored at the City ground against Nottingham Forest for, was it Hull City?
For Hull City, yeah.
Why did you do that?
Well, that was my job, unfortunately. I must say, that was actually one of my favourite goals.
Was it really?
Because I remember, obviously, playing at the City ground, unbelievable stadium, historic.
It is great.
So, and we beat you 1-0.
OK, no need to rub it in. These sports clubs, whether it's football or rugby or whatever, should offer two alternatives, either a professional footballer, or if you don't quite make it, you can still go and play football at a lower level, but have a career as well, maybe be an electrician or a plumber.
100%. You know, listen, I've had multiple conversations with various different people, whether it's the PFA or whether it's clubs. Even players who do have careers, you know, there's so many that don't make it and don't quite make it to the level or only play at a lower level. There's so many that do have long careers, but once you come to the end of that, you've spent, you know, for me, I spent 20 years as a professional footballer. Once I finished playing, what do you then do for the rest of your life? You know, at 35, once you retire, you still have to have a purpose in life. But I'd almost be starting from ground zero. I'm fortunate that I went into coaching and then went into the media.
That's good.
But for every one of me, there's hundreds that don't. And I've got so many friends who, I've got to say, you know, have really, really struggled on the, you know, mental health side.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually, because you go from, like, playing in stadiums, big stadiums, small stadiums, crowds, singing your name, and all that sort of stuff, that adulation, the buzz of winning games, and, you know, the downs of losing games, and you go from that to sort of nothing when you finish. I mean, that's a big come down area.
It's a huge come down.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
I'm Martin Daubney. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. GB News national reporter Charlie Peters has been at Manchester Crown Court today for the latest detail on another alleged grooming gang case.
Two girls became the sex slaves of a grooming gang in Rochdale. Manchester Crown Court heard this morning in the opening day of what is expected to be a 12-week trial against 8 defendants who are facing a range of child sexual offences, including 43 counts of rape. Now, all 8 defendants deny all of those charges, and here are their names. They are Naheem Akram, Mohammed Shahzad, Nisar Hussain, Mohammed Zahid, Rosine Khan, Arfan Khan, Mustaq Ahmed and Kasir Bashir. Now, Kasir Bashir was not in court today for reasons that weren't explained, but we also heard that Mohammed Shahzad was unable to make the first day of this trial due to him having a doctor's appointment. Well, moving past that, as the prosecution opened the case, they described how those gangs of men preyed upon these girls. They said, due to their vulnerabilities. Now, Mr. Rossano Scarmadella KC for the prosecution said that through no fault of their own, the troubled backgrounds of the girls made them susceptible to the advances of these men and others who behaved just like them. Describing some of the appalling ordeals that these girls allegedly endured, Scarmadella regularly said that other men were not able to be identified as the police built their case against these 8 defendants. Scarmadella also said that their treatment at the hands of these predators was appalling. They were children passed around for sex, abused, degraded, and then discarded. That it was the 2 of them that were exploited in this way was not by chance. Elsewhere, the prosecution said that the men lied to the girls that as Muslims, they did not and were not able to wear protection, putting them at risk of sexually transmitted infections and also at risk of pregnancies. The prosecution also said that one of the girls became pregnant when she was just a young teenager at the hands of her rapists. But when she expressed that she had become pregnant, they treated her horrendously. Mr. Scarmadella, the KC for the prosecution, also described instances where girls were kept in cold, dark, grim basements where they were expected to be sexually abused by multiple men, up to 5 on one occasion. And they were given between £5 and £8 to get home, just enough money to get a bus back from that part of Rochdale where they were being abused. In the afternoon session here at Manchester Crown Court, we also heard about abuse conducted by some of the taxi drivers involved in this case. The Crown alleges that there are 2 groups involved here, those who work at market stalls and those who work in taxi firms. Now, all 8 defendants have denied all of the charges against them. And here at Manchester Crown Court, the trial continues.
Thank you, Charlie. In the next hour, whilst America has this...
This week, I will also end the government policy of trying to socially engineer race and gender into every aspect of public and private life.
In Britain, we're stuck with this.
Is it transphobic to say only women have a cervix?
Look, is it transphobic? Look.
When we're back, I'm going to tell you all about how Britain has quite literally become the woke capital of the world. I've got some astonishing stats to present to you. Plus, Prince Harry has claimed a monumental victory today over Rupert Murdoch's News Group newspapers, receiving a settlement of believed to be in the region of £10 million. I'm going to bring you all of the latest details on that, and I will be taking you live to Germany to get the latest on the horrific news that an Afghan asylum seeker has gone on a rampage with a knife at a nursery group in a park, leaving 1 toddler and an adult dead and many more injured. This is Patrick Christys Tonight. I'll be with you again very, very shortly, so make sure that you keep it GB News. Don't move.
Imagine how £50,000 in cash from us could make your new year go with a bang.
Hi, my name's Victoria. I won the Spring
Good luck.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference.
It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's fast approaching 10 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight,
Are only two genders, male and female.
Trump goes to war on diversity and inclusion. Meanwhile, over here,
Is it transphobic to say only women have a cervix?
Look, is it transphobic? Look.
yeah, so we've got that, and we've also got this. MPs...
No, it's just... I just...
A woman can have a penis.
And we've got MPs debating whether we should have more female footballers on birthday cards. Britain is now the woke capital of the world when it comes to diversity jobs, and I have got the stats to prove it. I mean, it has to stop, doesn't it? Also tonight, an Afghan asylum seeker has slaughtered a toddler and a man in a park at a nursery group in Germany. Well, whose fault is that, do we think? Well,
We are taking urgent action to ban zombie-style knives and regulating the online sale of knives.
well, Starmer's response to the Southport massacre is to blame the knives, not simply the attacker, and...
It was on Amazon that the Southport killer bought his knife. Amazon, of course, is owned by Jeff Bezos.
Deranged James O'Brien also looks to shift the blame towards people like Jeff Bezos. How deluded can people be? Oh, and...
The flagship title for Rupert Murdoch's UK media empire has indeed engaged in illegal practices.
I've got the latest on Harry's court case victory. On my panel tonight is Director of Popular Conservatives Mark Littlewood, landlord and activist Adam Brooks, and writer and broadcaster Nina Mishkov. Oh, and why is this back in the news today?
비행기는 착륙 중에 랜딩 기어가 내려오지 않았고 착륙한 뒤 활주로를 이탈해 공항...
Get ready, Britain, here we go. It's time to grow up and ban diversity and inclusion. Next.
Good evening. It's just gone 10 o'clock. These are your headlines from the GB newsroom. Donald Trump has signed the papers to suspend the entry of migrants into the US at the border with Mexico. The US president signed an executive order directing federal agencies to repel, repatriate and remove illegal aliens across the southern border of the US. Meanwhile, a separate order has suspended all refugee travel to the US. 1 in 12 of the population in London is an illegal immigrant, according to a previously confidential report. The new estimate has emerged in a study commissioned by Thames Water, obtained by the Telegraph newspaper under the Freedom of Information style laws. In total, there are estimated to be more than 1 million illegal migrants in the UK, with 60% of those in the capital. The report suggests most illegal migrants arrived in the UK on work, study or visitor visas and then overstayed. An Afghan migrant who stabbed a 2-year-old boy and a 41-year-old man to death in a German park was supposed to have left the country. The 28-year-old Afghan national deliberately attacked a kindergarten group in the park with a kitchen knife, leaving 2 dead and 2 injured. The Bavarian Interior Minister said the suspect was undergoing psychiatric treatment and had his asylum process closed and was supposed to have left the country. He added that the suspect did not appear to be motivated by radical Islam. Meanwhile, people have begun to gather to protest with a placard reading, "We won't let diversity kill us." The stabbing adds to a string of violent attacks in Germany that have raised concerns over security and stirred up tensions over migration. Back in the UK, a 12-year-old boy who was fatally stabbed in Birmingham on Tuesday has been named by police as Leo Ross. Leo, described as funny and sweet, was found with serious injuries and died in hospital. A 14-year-old boy has been arrested in connection with the fatal stabbing. Police have now revealed the 14-year-old is also being held in connection with an assault on an 8-year-old woman in the same area. And the owner of The Sun newspaper has issued a full and unequivocal apology to Prince Harry for serious privacy violations and has agreed to pay him substantial damages, settling a long-running legal battle just as it was set to go to court. The apology also extends to the late Princess Diana, acknowledging intrusion into her private life. Former Labour Deputy Leader Tom Watson also received an apology for unwarranted intrusion during his time in government. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to Patrick.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Welcome along. Britain is now the diversity and inclusion capital of the world. So while America's got this,
are only two genders, male and female.
we have got this.
Is it transphobic to say only women have a cervix?
Look, is it transphobic? Look.
Whilst President Trump orders all diversity and inclusion employees to be put on paid leave, we have got this.
No, it's just...
A woman can have a penis.
While Trump orders all diversity and inclusion departments to close, and we have a colour-blind, merit-based society, that's what he wants, we have got this.
Is it transphobic to say only women have a cervix, David?
I don't know if it's transphobic, but it's not accurate, Nick. I mean, obviously, it's probably the case that only that trans women don't have ovaries, but a cervix, I understand, is something that you can have following various procedures and hormone treatment and all the rest of it.
Let's cross back now to Trump's America.
This week, I will also end the government policy of trying to socially engineer race and gender into every aspect of public and private life.
And back we come to Britain, where today MPs decided to discuss whether we should have more female footballers on birthday cards. Seriously. According to data from LinkedIn, UK organisations employ twice as many diversity and inclusion professionals per 10,000 employees than any country in the world. And we have the second largest number of diversity and inclusion professionals globally, behind America, but now obviously with the world leader, because Trump's just scrapped it all, hasn't he? We've got Westminster City Council posting a diversity, equality and inclusion job advert which discriminates against white applicants. They are looking for an individual who comes from a, quote, global majority background to become a permanent staff member with a starting salary of nearly 55 grand. They're using the Equality Act to do this, ironically. Apparently, Westminster Council needs to make £20 million worth of savings in the next financial year. I wonder why. Almost 15 million quid's worth of your money, taxpayers' money, has been spent on equality, diversity and inclusion roles in the UK's police forces since the beginning of 2021 to 2022 financial year. Almost 15 million quid of British taxpayers' money has been spent on diversity and inclusion in the police forces. So they can't solve burglaries, they can't solve rapes, they can't get knives off the street, ironically because stop and search is racist, but they can spaff nearly 15 million quid on diversity jobs. The NHS is advertising roles for diversity officers on between 80 and 100 grand. How many nurses will that pay for? Conwy County Council reportedly shut half of its public toilets due to a lack of finances. But they could find the money for a £45,000 a year diversity job. In the civil service, diversity and inclusion employees are paid more than top trade officials. The BBC has advertised jobs that white people simply cannot apply for. This is madness. It's madness right across the police, the NHS, the civil service, local councils, the media, as it turns out. The priority has been diversity and inclusion. It's been all about race and ethnicity. Well, it's not been about quality, has it? Has the police force got better or worse? Has the NHS got better or worse? Has your council tax gone up or down? Has the civil service got more or less efficient? Britain is in decline. We need to grow up and get real. Put diversity and inclusion in the bin, hire the best candidate for the role based on merit and merit alone, and get Britain working again. Let's get the thoughts of my panel this evening. Director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood. We've got businessman and activist Adam Brooks. And we've also got writer and broadcaster Nina Mishkov. So, Mark, we are now, because of what Trump's just done, the diversity and inclusion capital of the world. Do you feel enriched?
Not at all. And it's not just a question of enrichment. I mean, you're right that money's wasted on this. A friend of mine's just texted me about a role that she saw for a Wiltshire NHS role, being the Equality and Diversity and Inclusion Manager, to present 60 grand a year. Now, if you add it all up, it's not a colossal amount of money. We would not solve the national debt by cancelling it. But I think what you said, Patrick, is completely right. It's taken everybody's eyes off the ball.
Yeah.
So the police force, you know, they'll have these, you know, EDI officers hanging around. But it also has a chilling effect on all of those who are supposed to go out and police. And the same in the NHS. You've just shown our three leading cabinet ministers not knowing a bit of basic biology in order not to stand on a landmine. So it's not just the cost of it, which is woeful enough. It's the complete deflection that apparently we don't actually care about the quality of policing, the quality of healthcare, you know, how fast our businesses are growing. What we care is about the diversity mix of the people at the top of it. Total disaster. Now, what's really interesting about what Trump's done is there is basically no opposition to it in America.
Yeah.
The Democrats have folded almost 100%. He's won. He hasn't just won the election, he's won this argument hands down. And I pray to God that our own government realises this, wakes up and smells the coffee before too long. Because if they are serious, which they keep saying, that they will go through the books and look at every penny they can save, well, you've just pointed out 15 million quid's worth of it. And if they don't do that, it's because they've got a different agenda.
I honestly think, Adam, that our obsession with diversity, inclusion and equality at the expense of quality is one of the leading factors behind Britain's decline.
Look, it's not just Britain's decline, it's the West. We have weakened ourselves to this virtual signalling nonsense. You know, where we've got the armed forces having to go along with this. That's putting national security at risk. You say the NHS, patients at risk, the police, they're weak enough. You know, I look
Why
at...
are patients being put at risk? Excuse me.
The best person should be given the job,
How
not
do
because
you
they
know?
tick a box.
How do you know that?
Well, I was asked, Nina,
adverts.
before I went for a CAT scan about whether I might be pregnant.
Yeah.
Now, that only took a minute of time.
Well, that is idiotic.
But you would clearly... That's still a minute of time wasted because of some mad diversity directive.
That is idiotic. But you talked about the police, and, of course, the police were decimated under the Tories. You know, the numbers were slashed. The point being, if you have a diversity officer within the police, what you're trying to do is to get more police officers who look like many of the young people who are likely to send away for knives. So they're more likely. They're more.
What they look like.
No,
I
because
want them to
they're
do
more.
their job, Nina.
They can do their job, but if you can have community policing, and if you have community policing where the policemen look like the communities.
Westminster Council so Westminster Council is my council. I live under the jurisdiction of Westminster Council, right? So how is my life going to be bettered by the fact that we have someone from the, quotes, global majority working in an admin role in Westminster Council on 45 grand a year, 55 grand a year, actually? How does that better?
It doesn't.
What practical purpose does that serve, do you think?
It might not help you, but it might help an awful lot of other people who are looking for inclusion, who are looking for a more diverse society and a fairer society, because a lot of this started because it was unfair, and the system is still unfair.
Well, how about the best person person for the job.
Okay, the best
gets
person.
it.
Okay, but when I started working as a woman, I was completely discriminated against. I was not allowed to join the pension scheme. I was paid 2/3 of what the bloke sitting next to me was paid, and only through sheer real fight and legal processes did that change.
But what's changed since the 1960s, when with Martin Luther King and those, especially in America, were pointing out there was effectively a kind of soft, in some cases hard apartheid in America until the 1960s, is we should judge people by the content of their character, not the colour of their skin.
I agree.
That was Martin Luther King's rallying cry. Weirdly enough now, it seems to be the right of centre who are the Martin Luther King supporters, that you should be judged by the content of your character, and actually the lefties who think that you should be judged by the colour of your skin.
No,
that if you're from some particular racial background, you're better to do the filing.
No, and I'll tell you why that is.
It's unbelievable.
The left, and especially the Labour Party, believe they own ethnic minorities and the BAME communities. They believe...
Why do you say that? That's such a ridiculous thing to say.
No, it's not.
What do you mean they own them?
The Labour Party think that those communities must vote Labour.
No, nobody
yes,
thinks...
they do.
No, they do not.
I think, Jeremy Corbyn even said it in 2019.
Jeremy Corbyn is gone, dead and buried politically. Let's not even think... That's a long time ago. The Labour Party has changed a great deal.
The way I see this Labour Party going, and people like Keir Starmer, and Rachel Reeves can't even say what a woman is. I wouldn't be surprised in 5 years if I have to have a trans barman or a barmaid, in my pub. It's crazy, and I look at America and I'm jealous. I wish I was living there right now.
Nina, can I just say one thing? Anecdotally, right? I had a bloke stop me on the tube today, and he said to me, "Oh, it's great, isn't it?" And I said, "What is?" And he said, the first words out of Trump's mouth was something like, "The golden age of America awaits. I have been saved by God to make America great again." Now, you can say, all right, maybe that's for you, that's just guff, but it's optimism. Then he goes, "No more blokes in women's changing rooms. You will get a job now based on merit and merit alone." What's wrong with that?
But jobs are given on merit. They are.
You haven't seen the adverts, clearly. We've got the army has put out adverts where white people can't apply. Or the NHS. We've seen it with our own eyes, Nina.
Was to strongly encourage a person of a particular race to go for that job. It's feasible a white person could get it, but very unlikely. Could be no more explicit in the advertisement
we don't want
that your race was a defining aspect of getting this job, which was filing the accounts in somewhere or other. No Westminster Council taxpayer gives a damn whether the person doing that is black, white, tall, short, gay, straight, or anything else. It should be based on merit, and it wasn't.
It is based on
race. Go on, Nina. Go on.
The thing is, life has been very, very unfair. It is not balanced. 3.6% of whites are out of work. 13.9% of non-whites are out of work. That is an imbalance, surely.
1 in 12 people in London are here illegally, but that sounds of things as well. We just broke that story earlier on, but
you're now quoting stats tonight, a bit like Adam's quoted them about different groups doing different things. Look, if there's a particular racial community or ethnic community or religious community that's not getting on in the world, let's address that. Let's make sure that they work harder, train harder.
Well, exactly.
Let's not place adverts for them to become filing clerks at Westminster City Council because they're of a particular racial description.
I believe, I might be wrong, that the Somalian community is one of the most unemployed.
Disproportionately.
Disproportionately unemployed. Are you saying that that's because they can't get jobs, or is it maybe that they don't want the jobs, Nina?
Why are you saying they don't want jobs?
No, I'm asking you.
I have no idea, but why would you assume that they don't want...
How do you account for the differences in employment rates?
Well, maybe they don't speak English. They should be encouraged to speak English.
That's a rather important point.
Exactly. So what we're looking for is an integrated society where everybody plays their part.
You told me if I went to Spain the other week, I should learn how to speak Spanish. So those Somalians should learn to speak English.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
The reason they're out of work is that they are not sufficiently capable of doing the
job. Not necessarily. There could be many reasons. There could be many. I don't know why they're out of. But I'm not just saying. So you're 13.9% is Somali. It's not
on every council to assist them.
They do do need to assist people to integrate, to learn the language, to play their part, to work hard and pay taxes and be part of society.
I was a resident of Conwy in Wales, and I'd seen 45%, I think it was, of my public toilets closing due to a lack of funds and goodness knows whatever else. And there's probably a few potholes that haven't been filled in and all of that stuff. And I saw an advert for a diversity and inclusion officer on 45 grand a year. I would be questioning, the next time my council tax went up, I would be questioning where that money was going. And this is the kind of stuff that Trump has just come out and
killed, stone dead,
killing that. We are stopping that. Why can't we just do that?
And America will be so productive within the next 2 years because of that, because they will have workers that are genuinely there to be the best and not
aren't they doing that any? Aren't they there anyway? Aren't they genuinely the best they've got anyway?
Yeah, no.
I mean, you're talking about America. How can it change?
His vote went up amongst the black population and the Hispanic
vote. Exactly.
He was appealing across the board.
And whenever someone who is an ethnic minority, who I should rephrase that, who happens to be an ethnic minority, goes and gets a job in whatever position, every single person will unequivocally be able to say, you've got that on merit.
Exactly.
You have not got that off the basis of some box-ticking exercise. And I do wonder whether or not people might appreciate that. Anyway, look, another lively start, so thank you very much. Now, Westminster City Council have been on. They've told GB News Westminster City Council's recruitment policies are industry standard, entirely consistent with UK employment law, and have been in place for a number of years. In keeping with many public sector and private companies, we are committed to ensuring global majority candidates can compete for a range of roles and actively promote ourselves as an employer committed to equality and inclusion. Can I just suggest, if you're going to simultaneously use the phrase global majority... You're woke. Right, well, yeah, you are, but also, does that not make white people the global minority?
Yes.
And then, in that case, if we're looking at it globally, then, should you not have jobs only available to white people? Anyway, they've gone on. This role will be offered in open and fair competition, as is every other role advertised by the council. Right, OK, well, now we've got something that's available to everybody. It's the biggest Great British giveaway this year. It's your chance to win 50 grand in tax-free cash. Here's how you can win. OK, welcome back, everybody. Now, very shortly, I'm going to be having all the front pages. Now, it's interesting. What will The Sun do? And I'm asking that for this reason, because Prince Harry settles in court today with The Sun. I'm going to be joined by a media lawyer to explain what's been going down with the Duke. Will The Sun have to lead with a front page that is a massive apology to Prince Harry? Well, we'll find out in a few minutes' time, so keep it GB News.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody
in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
A woman of 53 has believed for 18 months she was in an online relationship with Brad Pitt.
I think we're seeing pictures. So these are the pictures that she received that made her believe that she was in this relationship with Brad Pitt.
And you'll see that some of it is in hospital because the scammer was claiming that he was suffering from cancer. This was playing very much on her emotion. So this is a divorcee who lived in Mauritius. She'd received a £700,000 divorce settlement, or £650,000 divorce settlement, I should say, and £700,000 has been taken from her through this scam.
Yeah.
As she was becoming, every time she became suspicious, the money was taken for payment of charges on gifts that she never received, and then hospital fees. There was lots of emotions being played into there. Now, as somebody, I'm a rom-com writer by trade, so I write romantic fiction. And one of the books I've written has actually been about somebody who did online dating, got herself into a whole heap of trouble. Not quite, she wasn't in a relationship with Brad Pitt, but she met somebody dodgy. So because I've written that book, I've met a lot of people who've come up to me and said, oh, it's happened to me.
It's scary in this digital age, isn't it?
They've lost $700,000, but somebody has tried it on. Somebody my question is, would a man go 18 months in a relationship online without seeing somebody and keep it going? Or is this feeding into this neediness of a particular demographic of a woman who that's better than anything else she got going on in her life, was what was being fed to her over the internet?
And then maybe a little bit of her knew, but she kind of just suppressed it because she
was hoping it was Brad Pitt.
Her daughter apparently for a year was saying, this can't be true, come on, think about it. But she just fell for it. But I just wonder, it's a very sad story. She's obviously now getting a lot of hate and ridicule as well.
Because she's been on French TV and she's had a huge amount of pushback from it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. So, Prince Harry has claimed what he is calling a monumental victory today over Rupert Murdoch's News Group newspapers. They've apologised for personal intrusions. They've agreed to pay substantial damages to settle his lawsuit. Murdoch's company acknowledged its private investigators and journalists targeted Harry with phone hacking, surveillance and the misuse of private information between 1996 and 2011. And they went as far as to apologise for intrusions into the private life of late Diana, the Princess of Wales. It's understood the Duke of Sussex's payout is in excess of £10 million, but he will use the, quote, majority of this sum to pay his legal fees. Well, joining me now is someone I can only imagine, if that's the case, a fabulously wealthy man, media lawyer Jonathan Code. Jonathan, thank you very much. Great to have you on the show.
Staggeringly, amazingly and astonishingly wealthy, absolutely.
But, well, look, on a more serious note, I mean, hey, this is, as far as I can tell, a full frontal vindication for Prince Harry, isn't it?
It is. In the sense that he's scored a big win against News, and I've fought News many times over 30 years, and they're not easy opponents to fight. He had the best lawyers available to the newspapers fighting against him, limitless legal fees. So he's absolutely entitled to call this a win. And David Sherborne and his team, all of whom I know, brilliant legal team, have won. As to whether News will think that they've suffered a major defeat, I think that's a different question. And the reason why I say that is because Harry's stated intention always was to prove in court that not only were all these intrusions taking place, everybody knew that they were, and the fact that some denied them just doesn't really matter, and so they admitted them, kind of so what. But what he was, I think he said he wanted to do was to bring out in court proof that the knowledge of all this went right up to the top, which he managed to do in the case against the Mirror, where the judge, same judge, Mr. Justice Fancourt, long judgment essentially absolutely laid waste to the Mirror management and said they all knew about it. And that's really what we all thought, at least I thought, Harry wanted in this case.
So talk to me about that, because I'll be honest with you, that was my thinking. I thought Harry, who's a wealthy man himself, look, we could all do with 10 million quid, don't get me wrong, but he's got a lot of money. So he's settled now for 10 million quid. A lot of that's going to his lawyers. I thought what he wanted was to have the day in court where Rupert Murdoch, through the medium of his legal team, prostrated himself at the altar of Prince Harry in front of the nation and said, Harry, we are sorry, we hacked your phone, we did this, we did that. And he's not got that, has he? He's got a written statement and 10 million quid. So what's changed for Harry, do you think?
Well, I disagree slightly. I mean, I've read the statement from News. Well, it's interesting, there's two statements. There's the agreed statement, where, importantly, they admit at last that the Sun was at it as well. They give an unqualified apology, and that's all good. And then you look at the post statement by the News, where they pull a long way back. Well, yes, well, we did, we didn't admit, and we still deny we destroyed 30 million emails to cover our tracks, and they don't admit that the knowledge of what was going on went right up to the top. So, the News is running two different stories here. But I agree with you. I don't... It's not what I thought Harry wanted. It won't have been just 10 million quid. Just so that you understand, what will have happened is that News months ago will have made Harry a massive offer. And the significance of that is it's what we call a Part 36 offer. What that means is they will offer him, say, £5 million in damages, which I think is more than he would ever likely to get. But what that means is from the date of that offer, and if Harry doesn't get the money, doesn't get more than that Harry will have to pay not only all his legal costs, but all News's legal costs as well, which could be 25, 30 million quid. Now, Harry isn't short of a bob, but 30-odd million quid, he's going to miss it.
You've lost the house in Portugal there. You've probably lost half the house in Montecito, and maybe a polo pony or two. But just to say, the Sun, I wondered whether or not the Sun might have had a condition in this where they ran a la Elton John. Sorry, Elton, on the front of the Sun. They've not done that. I can reveal, I think, the Sun's front page, actually. I mean, it's a very serious story. I mean, massively serious. Much more serious than Prince Harry. Leo, 12, stabbed to death on way home from school. That's a big story, a tragic story. So the Sun have not gone off on the front page. They were not forced to go off on the front page of their paper tomorrow with Sorry, Harry, were they, Jonathan?
Well, no, they weren't. And that will have been... will only have been on the front page if it was negotiated by Harry's legal team. But you make a very good point, if I may say. Well, we are in a situation where the only thing that mattered after Leveson was what was going to replace the Press Complaints Commission. And the big issue, which I thought Harry was aimed, in fact, he said he wanted to do, was improve the regulation of the British press, which desperately needs to happen. So as I understood it, his aim was to bring out, get a judgment from the judge, which said this was rotten right from the bottom to the top. That means, government, you need to do what you said you would do after Leveson won and force the press to be properly regulated. Now, not only is there not something on the front page, I don't know what's inside, but since I knew this question was coming, I went through my Sun app. Do you know, it is nowhere. That story is nowhere on the Sun website. I've been from top to bottom.
It's interesting,
They do not report this outcome on their website.
If I was Harry and his legal team, I would have thought I'd have done my damnedest to make that a condition of this. I would have thought. I'm very surprised. But Jonathan, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure. We could talk about this for hours, to be fair. Maybe one day we'll do it over a coffee. But as Jonathan Code there, media lawyer, you take care. Coming up, I will have the rest of tomorrow's newspaper front pages. We've given you a sneak peek of the Sun there. But, oh yes, and can you tell me why this is back in the news?
비행기는 착륙 중에 랜딩 기어가 내려오지 않았고 착륙한 뒤 활주로를 이탈해
Stay tuned, I'll see you in a tick.
Evening, weather time now from the Met Office here on GB News. This time tomorrow, Storm Eowyn will be fast approaching, bringing potentially damaging gusts of wind during Thursday night and into Friday. Before that, tomorrow there'll be a spell of wet and windy weather, but before that, tonight, relatively calm. Some mist and fog patches, especially over eastern England, and a touch of frost for northeast England, much of eastern Scotland, and many places colder than last night, and not far off freezing to start Thursday. In the west, temperatures probably rising a little through the night because this band of rain will be moving in. It's going to make for a soggy start for Northern Ireland tomorrow. Generally, a calm start for Scotland, maybe a few mist and fog patches. Certainly a frosty start for many, particularly in the east. But there's that wet weather across Northern Ireland. Pretty miserable morning rush hour here, and that rain will soon be spreading to West Wales and southwest England. The winds also starting to pick up here as we go through the morning. Now, that could cause a few problems. We've got a Met Office yellow wind warning in place for West Wales, southwest England, and the wind strengthening along the south coast of England through the day as this band of rain moves through. Something we're not seeing for a while. So a spell of quite heavy rain, some snow over the hills of northern England and parts of Scotland also. Turning brighter for Wales and southern England come the afternoon, but a few showers moving in. Also turning milder, but it'll feel pretty cold again across northern areas, 5 or 6 degrees. But wetter and windier weather is on the way for Friday. This swirl, that's Storm Eowyn arriving Thursday night and through Friday. The strongest winds just tucked in here, Northern Ireland, southern central Scotland, northern England and North Wales. That's where we've got an amber warning in force as that storm moves through. Damaging gusts of wind, 60, 70, perhaps 80 miles an hour, maybe more in some locations in that amber warning area. But yellow warnings are also in place for wind, rain and some snow. Check out all the warnings for yourself on the Met Office website.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. I'm going to take you straight to Germany, actually, for the latest developments in an absolutely horrendous story, but one that is sadly becoming all too common. German police have today confirmed that a 2-year-old boy and a man aged 41 have been killed in a stabbing spree in a German park. The perpetrator of that was a Afghan asylum seeker who should have left the country a while ago. Let's take you live now to journalist Rob Hyde, who is in Germany for us. Rob, thank you very, very much. Please, can you just give us the detail on what is believed to have happened here and what we know so far?
Right. Well, as you said, Patrick, it is a horrific event, and it is most definitely a sort of gruesome pattern which is all too present. So there was a 28-year-old Afghan man, and he carried out this knife attack, and it was on a nursery school group, and they were in a park. It's a lovely park. I've been there. It's called Schöntal Park. It's got lakes and meadows and sort of a children's playground and all these attractions and features. And he stabbed them. So it was a 2-year-old Moroccan child, a 41-year-old German, just innocent passerbys. They were killed. Several others were injured. So it's a 2-year-old Syrian girl, 61-year-old man, and a nursery school teacher. In terms of the granular details of what happened, so the suspect was arrested about 12 minutes after the attack, after passers-by had started pursuing him. And he then ran towards the train station, and as a result, the train lines were closed for some time. And initial police reports said they were 2 attackers. However, this was later corrected, as all sorts of things flying around on social media, as you can imagine. And the second detained individual was then identified as a witness.
Right. OK, I see. Just in terms of what we're hearing, I mean, this Afghan individual, is it correct to say he should have actually left the country? I believe he was told to leave, was he?
Absolutely, you're right. Yeah, so he entered Germany in November 2022 and he applied for asylum in early 2023. What happened, however, was that in December last year, 2024, he then announced his voluntary departure. And that then meant that his asylum case was then just closed. And that kind of brings back an eerie memory of Solingen, where you also had the attacker there who was supposed to have left, and the police actually came round to his house, and all he did was simply go out of his house for that day. And because he wasn't there, the system, which is arguably completely failed when it comes to dealing, deporting people who shouldn't be in the country, the system then just froze and stopped for 6 months.
And I'm hearing as well, sorry, Rob, I'm just hearing as well, there's been 2 protests in the area, And what is the mood like in Germany? I mean, so this is some of them. I mean, look, with absolute respect, not every single person that we see there with candles and all of this can be members of the far right, can they? I mean, but surely there just seems to be just an undercurrent of people who are fed up with this nonsense happening all the time.
I think that's absolutely the case. Yeah, I mean, if you just look at the polls, the AfD at the moment, they're in second place, and it's probably going to be, I would say, the CDU and their sister party, the CSU, the Conservatives, who are going to end up getting in and possibly, unfortunately end up in some sort of coalition with the Greens is possible. But I personally think were that government then to fail, and I think there's a fair chance it will, because as you said, there's just such a groundswell of resentment. Then I imagine that after that the AfD could do an awful lot better. When you said about far right, yeah, it's a tricky one, because I think obviously there's nothing far right about being really concerned about uncontrolled mass immigration, and that's definitely what's happened here. I mean. Yeah. I noticed that in England, people kind of know about the Berlin Christmas market, attack in 2016, and they know about Solingen because it's just happened. But what they're not necessarily aware of all these other knife attacks, which have happened, and axe attacks and attacks on synagogues. I mean, I could bore you with all the granular detail, but it's definitely a case, as you said, of extreme frustration and a feeling of not being listened to by the traditional parties.
Well, Rob, look, thank you very much. Obviously, grim subject matter, but thank you very much for coming on and discussing it so eloquently. It's Rob Hyde there, who's a journalist based in Germany, in Bremen, I believe. So thank you, Rob. You take care. Right, OK, look, let's shift things slightly now. Let's actually give you those front pages. So we're going to start with the Metro. Starting with the Metro. We can see you, Vlad. So the UK has issued a warning to Putin over a spy ship that was apparently in our waters. The Mirror have gone for boy 12 murdered on way home from school. A 14-year-old has been arrested after that. Well, I suppose we have to say alleged stabbing, do we? The Independent. Harry wins historic £10 million plus apology deal from Murdoch's son. The Daily Telegraph have gone off on that story that we broke for you as well about an hour ago now. 1 in 12 people in London is an illegal immigrant. New research adds fears over borders and increased pressure on public services. I mean, it's an astonishing story there. The iPaper, gotcha. They're quoting, of course, a famous Sun front page there. Gotcha. Prince forces the Sun to pay out more than 10 million quid. So, right, so those are the front pages. 1 in 12 people in London is here illegally. Absolutely.
Who knew?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know. I must admit, I'm pretty gobsmacked.
I'm not.
I would have guessed 1 in 30.
No.
It's still not great, is it, Mark?
And the best thing here is a Home Office spokesman said, this is right at the bottom of the story.
Yeah.
We have removed 16,400 illegal migrants in just 6 months. Well, I mean, you're not even remotely close to clearing the backlog. I mean, there's, we're saying, what, 500,000
it's more than a year. It's more than a year ago.
Yeah. Look, 16,400
Is
in just
more,
6 months.
Yeah,
The
that's
highest
more
figure
than...
in half a decade, making it clear that those who arrive illegally will be returned. But that's a tiny fraction.
Well, but it's moving, isn't it?
Well, I mean, you need to add more than a naught on that.
I would agree, but then you've got to start somewhere, haven't you?
Yeah,
and it's
so,
it's more than the last 5 years.
20 in the next
One
year.
second.
That's what it needs to
How can you defend that, Nina? Because you have a go at me a lot on here about my immigration talk and about me saying the dangers of people coming in and we don't know who they are. We've just seen a murder in Germany, right? How do you defend 1 in 12 people in London?
I don't defend it. I'm absolutely gobsmacked too.
So why do you scorn people like me?
I'm not scorning. I'm not scorning.
Back against illegal immigration.
I'm saying these people, they say, are people who arrived on visas, perhaps.
No, they're illegal. They're illegals.
Yeah, but they're illegal because they've overstayed. That's the whole point.
So they're here illegally.
Yeah,
that goes a bit
exactly.
That horror in Germany, Patrick, where it seems that they couldn't get this person out. We don't know all the details, but the actual exiting of people who shouldn't
it's
be
exactly
here
that.
seems to completely fail.
And it's not. These are not people who have come over on a boat. These are people
some of them.
Come on, a small, tiny minority of them. But these are people who have come here legally and have now overstayed their welcome.
Guys, we're just going to have to pause this for now because I do have some more front pages for you. I also want to ask you, if you're at home, can you guess why this is back in the news?
비행기는 착륙 중에 랜딩 기어가 내려오지 않았고 착륙한 뒤 활주로를 이탈해 공항.
Yes, we're going to zone in on Prince Harry again when we come back because there's been a development and there's someone here on my sofa that knows a thing or two about it, so stay tuned.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The sunshine will be returning to Cyprus, but still a few showers around for the next day or so. Much of mainland Greece fine and sunny. There are the showers across Cyprus. They'll be clearing, as should the showers over Turkey as well. But remaining pretty mixed, quite cloudy over the Balkans, with a few showers in here and for northern Italy. It's been quite wet recently in southern Spain. More wet weather to come here on Thursday, and more showers to come across the Canaries. But it should be turning sunnier in Tenerife for the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
I'm really pleased to see this story. It's the news that bowel cancer screening, the age for that is going to be dropped from 60 to 50. And this is really, really important because bowel cancer is one of the biggest killers, and more people appear to be getting diagnosed with bowel cancer in their 50s. Not entirely clear why. And there was an inspirational woman called Deborah James who I actually met when I used to be the Shadow Health Secretary, and I remember meeting her when she had her cancer diagnosis and supporting her campaign, and she sadly passed away a couple of years ago, but it was a phenomenal campaign, and I think did inspire the nation. And this is so important. So people in their 50s are going to be sent these kits in the post. And I suppose my plea is just do not ignore these kits because you can deal with cancer if you catch it early enough.
Yeah.
So
I mean, this is not the most pleasant thing to do, and a lot of us aren't used to it and talking about it and whatever, but it's essential, obviously, to do.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And the other reason I wanted to sort of flag this is, I mean, we can sometimes make ourselves sort of pretty miserable looking at the newspapers, but this is undoubtedly a good initiative that the government have done this, and that campaigners have persuaded the government to do this. So, look, I just want to plea to everybody watching, if you get one of these kits, use it.
And, of course, I think it's really important within that to point out that this would not have helped Deborah, because Deborah was 40 when she died. And what's really important when you see stories like this is to pay attention to what your body is telling you. And if you have symptoms that are weird, it is important to go to your doctor and to talk about them and to take the tests.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. A few more front pages for you. The Daily Express. ISIS death cult back on the streets of Syria. Daily Express, ISIS death cult back on the streets of Syria. A warning to the world after Assad's fall. They've got images there of, they say, ISIS back on the streets. Let's go to Daily Mail. Nuclear sub warns off Putin's spy ship. We see you, we know what you're doing. Apparently we've managed to stave off a Putin spy ship. The Guardian, Prince claims, quotes, historic win over the Sun owner after settling intrusion case. This is Prince Harry. And Nina, I'm going to start with you on this. You've worked for both the Sun and the News of the World.
Back in the late 70s, early 80s, yep.
And you also... one of the other big cases involving the Sun was, of course, Elton John.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? So let's quickly get your views on the Harry settlement and also that story about the day Elton won.
I'm absolutely thrilled for Harry. All that he said in Spare has been completely vindicated. What he wanted was for the Sun to admit that they did all of this. They put their paws up and said, guilty, yes, we did. And it was right to the top. They all knew, they all must have known, because none of these things can happen without... blessing from above. When Elton sued the Sun, he won £1 million, which is back in the 80s, and I saw him the night before that was printed in the Sun, and he had tears in his eyes as he told me that he'd won, and he told me the Sun are going to print it, and you can see there, that was the front page. Sorry, Elton. And I don't know why Harry's lawyers haven't got the same thing. They should have had sorry, Harry.
Yes, yeah, because
then it would only have been an £8 million settlement.
Well, this is it. So the argument against some of what Nina said there is that Harry's main mission, he said, set out from the start, was simply to essentially have Rupert Murdoch prostrate himself in court and say, I unequivocally have done all of this stuff. And he said a bit of that. They've since issued a slight retraction, actually, News Group newspapers. But Harry appears to have taken the cash, which is not really what he said he'd do.
No, that is correct. And just on Nina's point, I suspect Nina's right. But, of course, News are denying it went all the way to the top. But they've clearly wanted to close the book on it. Harry has obviously closed the book on it as well. I have no idea what his personal wealth is, but, you know, £10 million is, well, his lawyers will be getting most of that. But it's not life-changing for him, but it's significant. I'm unsurprised this has been put to bed. I'm not a fan of Harry, but he was in the right in this case, and I'm glad this has been settled in this way. The Sun deserved to be punished for what they did.
Just quickly, Adam.
Yeah, look, I was
Does this change your view of Prince Harry?
No, he deserves this. I was a big fan of Harry before all the recent sort of years, silly behaviour and wokeness. But if someone's listening in on your conversations and trying to ruin your life, this is a bit of justice, so I do agree with him here.
All right, fair enough. Now, I've just got time to show you this, I think. So we've been teasing this a bit. So this is a plane crash that took place in South Korea. We're going to play the clip of it. So the reason this is back in the news at the moment is because now apparently what South Korea have decided to do is remove all concrete ends to runways as a result of that. So because that plane, you know, obviously lost function and careered into it, they're saying that actually if those concrete ends to runways weren't there, and it's maybe going to set a global precedent, actually, which when you think about it, might make us all feel a little bit safe.
Well, and you Just Stop Oil activists getting onto the runway.
Yes, yeah, well, that's true. Well, I suppose that's one way of looking at it.
All I can say is I'm glad I'm not flying in the next week or two, because that gives me the horrors.
Yeah.
I don't like flying as it is, you know.
No, I agree.
No, I mean, thank God, if it's an extra safety measure, then please. You know.
It's one of those things that you think maybe actually was quite obvious. Like, you go through all airport security, you think they've covered everything, and actually, you know, there's some quite old school
massive concrete
wall at the end of a runway. Actually, maybe we should.
Most runways go out over the sea, or you know, there's an escape route.
Yeah.
Well, you can just make the runway longer, but airports do need to be secure, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I was joking a bit about Just Stop Oil, but you don't want terrorists being able to get onto the runway, for example. They've got to be secure places.
I just want to land safely.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you. I hate flying, and images like that just make it worse.
I love it. Every time I see a plane going over, I want to be on it. I love it.
Well, there you go. Well, on that cheery note, I would like to thank everybody who's been watching and listening this evening. I would also really like to thank this wonderful panel. We covered a lot of topics tonight, a lot of very serious stuff, but it's also had a few laughs along the way, so thanks very much. Headliners are up next, so please do keep it GB News. It is actually a whopping set of front pages for them to get stuck into, from Putin sending some kind of spy ship into our waters that our nuclear subs have managed to turn away. The fact that who could have predicted this? The ISIS death cult is back on the streets of Syria. It turns out like almost it's not better that everything's gone there. The Sun have got that very serious story about a 12-year-old boy being stabbed on his way home from school. How many times do we have to read stories like that? And, of course, that big, whopping, great big Prince Harry settlement. So I'll be back again tomorrow at 9 p.m. I wish you all the very best. I'll see you then. Well done, guys. Thank you very much.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Evening, weather time now from the Met Office here on GB News. This time tomorrow, Storm Eowyn will be fast approaching, bringing potentially damaging gusts of wind during Thursday night and into Friday. Before that, tomorrow there'll be a spell of wet and windy weather, but before that, tonight, relatively calm. Some mist and fog patches, especially over eastern England, and a touch of frost per northeast England, much of eastern Scotland, and many places colder than last night and not far off freezing to start Thursday. In the west, temperatures probably rising a little through the night because this band of rain will be moving in. It's going to make for a soggy start for Northern Ireland tomorrow. Generally, a calm start for Scotland, maybe a few mist and fog patches. Certainly a frosty start for many, particularly in the east. But there's that wet weather across Northern Ireland. Pretty miserable morning rush hour here, and that rain will soon be spreading to West Wales and southwest England. The winds also starting to pick up here as we go through the morning. Now, that could cause a few problems. We've got a Met Office yellow wind warning in place for West Wales, southwest England, and the wind strengthening along the south coast of England through the day as this band of rain moves through. Something we're not seeing for a while, so a spell of quite heavy rain, some snow over the hills of northern England and parts of Scotland also. Turning brighter for Wales and southern England come the afternoon, but a few showers moving in. Also turning milder, but it'll feel pretty cold again across northern areas, 5 or 6 degrees. But wetter and windier weather is on the way for Friday. This swirl, that's Storm Eowyn arriving Thursday night and through Friday. The strongest winds just tucked in here, Northern Ireland, southern central Scotland, northern England and North Wales. That's where we've got an amber warning in force as that storm moves through. Damaging gusts of wind, 60, 70, perhaps 80 miles an hour, maybe more in some locations in that amber warning area. But yellow warnings are also in place for wind, rain and some snow. Check out all the warnings for yourself on the Met Office website.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
There's just
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
First, mate, we had lockdowns. Then we had soaring energy costs. Then we had a hike in national insurance for employers. Then we had soaring wage costs. And now the government expects people like you to monitor what people say in boozers. And if you don't, you might get sued. I bet you feel like saying cheers to them, don't you?
Look, it just looks like another war on pubs. You know, remember they tried to stop smoking outside as well. Luckily, they rethought that. But look, we've got everything stacked against us Martin. And the last thing I need to do is